see? Can everybody hear is the important thing. Right, welcome to this evening's NutriCentre lecture on what is a normal period. So we're going to look through all the research to see what should be happening when we have a period. So we're going to look at reducing pain and PMS symptoms. I'm Dian Shepperson Mills. I got into this system of working because I had endometriosis, and I trained at Manchester University in nutrition and home economics. So when I was very ill with endometriosis and I wanted to know why, I actually went to a clinical ecologist and got better with nutrition because all the drug treatments were not helping me at all. So I've worked through nutrition. I've taught nutrition for 18 years. And then after I got well again, I trained at ION because it was the only course I could find that looked at nutrition and body biochemistry. All the others were looking at food technology. And then I did an MA at University of Brighton looking at fertility and nutrition and health education. So I'm a member of BANT. I am the chair of the Nutrition Special Interest Group for the American Society of Reproductive Medicine. So I work with gynecologists in America. I work with ESHRA. I do some lectures for the European Society of Human Reproduction and Embryology. And I'm a certified nutritional therapist. You've got my phone number. My email is dian@endometriosis.co.uk, and I have two websites, endometriosis.co.uk and makingbabies.com. But they're on my leaflets. So I've got leaflets here. I've got the charities leaflet. I've got one handout on endometriosis, one on period pain, and some books on fertility. So, and a DVD of 8 case histories. So that's me, that's how I got into it. And I'm a trustee of Endometriosis She Trust UK. So this is the book, Endometriosis, The Key to Healing and Fertility Through Nutrition. It's published by Thorson's and they have some copies here. Now, this is how we end up feeling if you've got bad period pain. I don't mean just normal tummy cramps. I mean debilitating, breathtaking pain, which is not normal. And that is not what we want. So the best thing to do is be quiet, listen to the patient, and listen to what she's trying to tell me and the doctor, so you can find out exactly what's wrong. Because really, we all want to be doing this. We don't want to be screwed up in a ball hugging a hot water bottle. We want to be active, fit and healthy. And when I first started talking to women's groups about endometriosis, I was shocked, quite honestly, because I'd always had period pain. And when I was talking to 300 women at the WI or the Mothers Union, and I asked who has painful periods, the majority never knew they were having a period. Their periods came and went, and that's what should be happening. So that's what we're going to look at. Now, we know from research that 35% of all cancers are diet related. So that was my starting point when I was looking at what's happening with endometriosis, period pain and fertility. Because if cancers are diet related, are other conditions and diseases diet related? And the World Health Organization found that when they questioned adults, 71% of the adults questioned knew that diet was important to their state of health. So how can diet impact your symptoms? Does what we eat affect PMS and period pain? So that's what we're going to look at this evening. Now, the first thing is that nutrients are essential to life. None of us would be here if we weren't absorbing nutrients. And we eat every day. It's something we all do every day. And sound food choice keeps us healthy, whereas poor food choice can make you ill. Or, if you're not absorbing, you can become ill. And the truth is that nutrients give life to all living things on planet Earth, and it is essentially the ultimate primary health care. So the body systems are depending on the nutrients that we take in to keep the hormones and enzymes working so that we can rebuild proteins from the amino acids. So your reproductive system, the digestive system, the immune system, the nervous system, they're all dependent on you taking in vitamins, minerals, amino acids, etc. And the one thing is that the body is not a disparate set of organs. They're not all this little digestive system, this reproductive system, respiratory system, because different systems link to each other by hormonal messages, and neurotransmitters from the brain depend on estrogen. So we've got this network in our body where messages are being sent via enzymes and hormones, and we have to get the body working correctly so that the health of the whole body is correct. Now, when we look at the National Diet and Nutrition Survey, they found that 84% of women fail to achieve the recognised levels, the reference nutrient intake for folic acid. So that's a very high amount. 3/4, 74% of women are falling short on nutrients in their diet. 80%, there is an 80% decrease in the intake of omega-3 fatty acids from fish in the general population. 50% more saturated fats are eaten than the recommended level. So we're eating twice as many saturated fats as the recommended level. And 15% of women and 13% of men are not eating their 5 fruit and vegetables a day. Now, this always fascinates me. Look at the year, 1936. And the American Senate actually said the alarming fact is that foods, fruits, vegetables and grains, now being raised on millions of acres of land that no longer contains enough of certain minerals, are starving us, no matter how much of them we eat. No man of today can eat enough fruit and vegetables to supply his system with the minerals he requires for perfect health. And when you talk to people like Craig Sands, who grew up in Nebraska on a farm, originally they had 8 meters of topsoil, nutrient-rich topsoil with all the microspores in it. Now they're down to 18 inches of topsoil. It's all washing off to the sea. The way we farm can upset the uptake of nutrients by the plants. And if you look at McCance and Widdowson data, comparing 1939 to 1991 levels for magnesium, you can see that raw carrots are down 3/4, celery is down by half of the magnesium, potatoes by 1/3, tomatoes by 1/3. So the fruit and vegetables we're eating now does not contain as much of the vitamins and minerals as our ancestors have. Tim Lang, who's the Professor of Nutrition at University College London, has some research from Canada which says that to obtain as much vitamin A from an orange as your grandmother absorbed from one orange, you have got to eat 8 oranges now to get the same amount of vitamin A. Now this is not good. And if you look at research, I can't put everything up, but if you look at the American Dietetics Society food pyramid, isn't it? Triangle pyramid, and if you look at Harvard School of Nutrition's food pyramid, both of them now have a little bottle of multivitamins at the side and are recommending that everybody takes a multivitamin every day to make up for the shortfall. So what's happening with our periods? Well, your period is going wrong if the blood is brown or sludgy like melted chocolate or black tarry, and if the period goes on for up to 7 or more days, something is not right. If you have excruciating pain, I don't mind the odd mild cramp, where you can keep going, but anything that's taking your breath away and doubling you up, and you're debilitated, you're sitting at home with a hot water bottle, that is not right. The blood shouldn't be extremely heavy or flooding. You should have normal flow. So if you're flooding and it's really heavy, then something's wrong. And if you're unable to work or you're passing out or vomiting, something's really wrong, because that is not normal. So you have to see your GP and insist upon a referral to either a specialist endometriosis gynecologist or someone who's used to dealing with menstrual problems, not just obstetrics or cancer. So over the month we've got changes in the ovary, the follicle forming, releasing the egg and a corpus luteum, the blood shedding, the endometrium starting to build up until you're ready to have another period, and then breast changes with the prolactin levels changing. So the body's changing each month because of hormones. And normal menstrual flow, women often accept, we're told, oh, period pain is normal. Go home and hug a hot water bottle and take 2 paracetamol. We come to expect that. But Dr. Casimir Funk, the man who isolated vitamin B1 in 1912, these are on my website, so you don't have to take copious notes. He described the effect of a B vitamin complex in reducing the length of time of a woman's menstrual flow from 5 or 6 or 7 days down to 3 or 4 days to normalise the period. And he reported that menstruation came on completely without warning. No PMS, just your period starts, you don't even know. While the women were on the B complex vitamin therapy. And he successfully treated PMS through nutrition. Blood clots, large blood clots. Some women I see just have small, tiny blood clots, but other women have like chopped liver. Literally huge chunks of endometrium are coming out. And these can be prevented when you use vitamin C and E together with evening primrose and fish oils. The reason is because all 4 of those have estrogenic properties, and certain estrogens produce changes in the way your blood clots. It can thin your blood and prevent clotting. And blood flow, textbook on the biology of adolescence. The amount of blood lost at menstruation is usually 60 millilitres or 2 fluid ounces. Now that's very little. Women I see, and myself, in olden days, used to have what I call soup bowls, not 2 fluid ounces. So some women are losing an awful lot of blood. And what your period should be like is red blood for 4 days, moderate flow, nothing heavy, small or no clots, and no pain or very mild cramps. So nothing that's stopping you going to work and going out and living life normally. This slide won't be seen. This is the endocrine system, the pineal gland which produces melatonin, which helps you sleep, the hypothalamus which produces GnRH, the pituitary which produces follicle-stimulating luteinizing hormone, oxytocin and prolactin. And the pituitary is known as the conductor of the endocrine orchestra because it says pituitary do this, ovary do that, thyroid do this, thymus do that. So it conducts the whole endocrine system. You have the thyroid in the neck, you have the thymus here that the gorillas bash, the pancreas, which is sat by your liver producing digestive enzymes and insulin and glucose tolerance factor, the adrenal glands, which are sat on top of the kidney, and the ovaries, which are producing estrogen and progesterone. So that system is what's running the menstrual cycle. And the only way it can do it is by sending a tiny little hormonal message from the pituitary to the ovaries. So it's not huge amounts of hormones, it's little bits that are telling the cycle what to do. So we have the pituitary gland, which is in your brain. It's the size of a green pea hanging in the centre of your head. And it's sending follicle stimulating hormone to the ovary to tell it to ripen, mature 2 or 3 ova each month. The ova are tightly packed in the outer layer of the ovary, and the nutrients are being fed to the ova by these granulosa cells, of which there are 2 million for each egg. And one of the gynecologists I know in Argentina has now shown that the ovary is the only organ in the body with a double blood supply. So it's got 2 sets of arteries and 2 sets of veins. And each month you're starting to ripen 2 or 3 ova. So these tightly packed little eggs, wrapped up. When the follicle stimulating hormone comes, it starts the system off. When one egg gets to about 22 millimeters in diameter, for some reason which they still don't know, the other eggs start being reabsorbed, and the dominant follicle then grows to 28 millimeters, nearly 3 centimeters in size. The granulosa cells are feeding, they're taking nutrients from the bloodstream and maturing the egg. And they're producing estrogens. So the egg's surrounded by estrogenic factors. Now, if you've got polycystic ovaries with high insulin, that changes, because when the ovaries are washed with insulin, the granulosa cells start producing testosterone, which is why the egg doesn't mature properly and you don't always ovulate. So it's in our best interest to keep our insulin at a sensible level, so not too many sweets and sugars and carbohydrates. Halfway through the month, sorry? What? The granulosa cells are producing testosterone if your body is awash with insulin. Yeah? Which is why some women get polycystic ovaries. It's hyperinsulinism. And then instead of producing estrogen, they're producing testosterone. So the egg doesn't mature. So the eggs aren't going to fertilise properly. Yeah?
Thank you.
Halfway through, day 14, 15, 16, luteinizing hormone sends another message to the ovary, and the membrane of the follicle thins and bursts open so that the egg can be released and hoovered up by the fallopian tube. And then this follicle seals over and becomes a corpus luteum. Corpus luteum means the yellow body, the golden body, and it fills with golden fluid, which is producing progesterone, so that if that egg is fertilized and you fall pregnant, that corpus luteum will maintain the pregnancy for 12 weeks until the placenta is strong enough to produce progesterone to take over. So it's all very magical, really. You know, at the blink of an eye, all this stuff's happening. Now, obviously, estrogen and progesterone need good oils in your diet because they're oil-based hormones, the steroid hormones, whereas the FSH, LH, the prolactin, the oxytocin are oil and protein based, so we need proteins and good oils. And then that starts reabsorbing once you're 12 weeks pregnant and the placenta takes over. In rats and mice, what is very interesting at the moment, and is a watch this space, they're finding that some rats and mice can produce new eggs. As far as we've known in humans and most mammals, we have a set supply of eggs. As a fetus in your mother's tummy, you had 7 million eggs, a bit like a goldfish. By the time you're a teenager, you've only got 400,000 left. And at 52, 51, you've got 2,000 eggs left. My doctor has delivered a first baby to a 51-year-old woman who didn't get married till she was 49, and the baby's fine. So, this happens. So we don't know whether we can produce new eggs. At the moment, the school's out. Now, what triggers cysts? Some people grow huge cysts on the ovary. Sometimes you can get what's called luteinizing unruptured follicle, especially if the women are using non-steroidal anti-inflammatories. This membrane doesn't break and that you can grow larger cysts, or cysts can grow in the ovary or they can grow on a stalk outside the ovary, and they can grow. I had one girl who was tiny and thin and had a 45 centimetre cyst. On average they're about 3 to 5 centimetres. Some people grow Gallia melon type cysts, which can be extremely painful. But the research on cysts shows that excess dairy and eggs are felt to be a problem if you're growing large cysts. They use Mormon women as controls because they don't have coffee or alcohol. They're sort of a good control group. And research shows that, again, B vitamins aid the ovaries to control excess estrogen. But sugars reduce the ability of B vitamins to work because your body's using B vitamins to, what's the word I'm looking for, break down the sugars in your body. The other piece of research I have is on high copper levels, which are linked to ovarian cyst formation. So we've got this little ovary swimming about here. The uterus and ovaries are held by ligaments from lumbar 4 and 5 here. So if lumbar 4 and 5 are slightly twisted, your ovaries might not be near the fallopian tube. So always, if you've got back problems, check with a chiropractor, an osteopath or a physiotherapist to make sure lumbar 4 and 5 are correct. And this egg gets hoovered up by the fallopian tube, and it takes 7 to 9 days to travel back into the womb if there's conception, if it meets a sperm. And of course we don't know whether people have conception all the time. Something we don't know, but it's possible. And then it rolls around. If it's been fertilized, the blastocyst actually rolls around the endometrium. If you watch it on a video, and I think it's looking for a nice nutrient-rich spot to grow in, because it takes then, once it's started to implant, and that needs zinc and vitamin E, it takes another 9 or 10 days to build a placenta and start taking the nutrients from the mother's bloodstream. So it's reliant on the nutrients it's got, and then it's reliant on the nutrients in the endometrium. This is why I always say menstrual blood must be red and oxygenated, because how can this little blastocyst get lots of nutrients if the endometrium is black, sludgy, stale blood? It can't get what it needs. So what do we have to do to correct the menstrual cycle? Well, it involves you being proactive. You need to eat healthy, nutrient-rich foods. You need to exercise for about 20 minutes a day, a brisk walk, some yoga, a swim. Take a multivitamin and a fish and evening primrose oil to make sure that you're getting the nutrients you need. If you're getting bad pain, a magnesium supplement. We need to correct digestion problems. If you're malabsorbing, we can look at acid offers. And exclude foods from the diet if they upset you. So I'm going to work through these bit by bit. Now, pain is an alarm signal. Your body is giving you a warning. It can be an unpleasant feeling, says the dictionary, caused by injury or disease of the body. But endometriosis pain can be stunning, breathtaking, if you've got a cyst twisting on a stalk, or you've got a cyst that's ruptured. The world's going to end in 2 seconds. It's just unbelievable. But normal period pain should just be a mild cramp. But if you've got over and above normal period pain, we need to check what's happening. And what causes pain and inflammation actually at the cellular level? Well, if you've got pain or damage to a cell membrane, which is what can be happening, the blood vessels dilate, the blood flow increases. If you cut your hand, it doesn't stay like that. It goes all red and inflamed and a bump. So the blood flow's increasing because they're trying to get white blood cells there to kill off any infection. It goes red and inflamed. The mast cells are rushing there to release histamine and prostaglandins PGE2, which can burn and make you sore. I know Mike used to say if in the lab he got PGE2 on his hand and he rubbed his nose, it was like red hot chili. The histamine tightens the muscles and contracts because you don't want to bleed to death. Your body's trying to bring clotting factors to the wound. And the blood vessels can leak fluid into the spaces between cells so that you swell up a little bit. So pain is a physical manifestation. Something's happening. The series 2 prostaglandins, one piece of research shows that women with severe pain, infertility and endometriosis have got raised levels of PGE2 in the peritoneal fluid that's bathing all the organs. So there is a physical manifestation that something's wrong, and that can trigger inflammation. They actually inject you with PGE2 to trigger an abortion. The prevalence of endometriosis in the female population is 8 to 10% of women in their reproductive years, and 20 to 50% of women with infertility. The medical literature on the subject ranges from 6 to 45%. But we know that 2 million women in the UK have endometriosis, 100 million in the EU, and about 200 million worldwide is the figures that are coming out now on the research. I was on the House of Commons APPG group, and between the charities and the MPs, we had 82 MPs in the group. We did a questionnaire online, and 7,500 women diagnosed. They had to give the name of the gynecologist and the hospital. The age of the first period pain was about 16.3 years. The age at diagnosis was around 27.6 years. So on average, it was taking 9.11 years to be diagnosed. And this is the same if we're in America, if we're in Japan, if we're in Australia, New Zealand. On average, it took 5.11 years before the GP sent the woman to a gynecologist. 15% of the women had to give up work because their symptoms were so bad. 68% had been misdiagnosed with cystitis or irritable bowel, or PID. 30% of the couples were struggling to get pregnant. And we know from data that 20% of women in the UK have hysterectomies before they're 55. We don't know whether it's just endometriosis, fibroids, it's a mixture. And the endometriosis symptoms from the American Association are period pain, nearly everybody, fatigue, 87% diarrhea, 83% bloating, where it's more like distension. You feel as though you've been blown up by a bicycle pump. Heavy or irregular bleeding, painful intercourse, dyspareunia, nausea when you're having your period because of the pain, dizziness or headaches, low resistance to infection, 43%, infertility, 40%, and many people feel hot and bothered, low-grade fever, 32%. So something's manifesting and happening. Now that was a picture of endometriosis which hasn't come out because this is a PC and I'm a Mac person, so the picture hasn't worked. But you get these red petechial spots which look like red blisters, which are when the endometriosis is most active and producing PGE2. And it also produces its own estrogen, and it's producing two specific proteins, endo-1 and endo-2. So this endometrial tissue is different to the endometrium lining the womb. It behaves differently, and they're trying to find out why. Now, when I first started doing research, I wanted to know why was I in pain. I ate well. but my digestion wasn't working because I was on so many painkillers. So the nutrients which you can find in research which help your body pain pathways are vitamin C, E, vitamin K, zinc and selenium, the essential fatty acids, the omega-3, 6 and 9, vitamin B1, B6, B12, magnesium and an amino acid, D-L-phenylalanine. So all of those help in the pain pathways. And if you're malabsorbing or not digesting, or you're so ill you can't eat properly, then clearly your pain pathways can't work properly. So looking at the fish oils, this was the first piece of work I ever found, which was 1988. Looking at the effects of fish oils on endometrial implants, because it grows, it takes 4 hours to come out of the fallopian tube and actually seed itself and grow and root in healthy tissue. And the implant showed positive results that the sites of the endometrial tissue shrank when fish oils were fed to rabbits. So we know that the anti-inflammatory fish oils seem to have some effect on helping get rid of endometriosis. And in a group of Danish women, higher intakes of omega-3 fatty acids or a higher ratio of omega-3 to omega-6 was associated with reduced menstrual pain. So if you're getting menstrual pain, try taking more fish oil than evening primrose oil, a higher ratio of omega-3, or eating lots of oily fish or nuts and seeds. So women should reduce saturated and trans fatty intake by half, and then research showed that the estrogen levels go down by about 20%. They're lower in women who are reducing saturated and trans fats. So eating oily fish, nuts and seeds, dark green leafy vegetables, extra virgin olive oil and walnut oil can help your body balance. You've got vegetables, nuts and seeds, the linoleic acid, and when you've got the right nutrients working, they're metabolized in the body to prostaglandin series 1, which has an anti-inflammatory effect. Meat and dairy products, the arachidonic acid, become prostaglandin series 2. It's metabolized and it triggers pro-inflammatory prostaglandins, which trigger inflammation. So you need to reduce your meat and dairy intake. And then the fish oils, the walnut and linseed and hemp oils, those are alpha-linolenic acid, and they metabolize to prostaglandin series 3, which also have an anti-inflammatory effect. So you need to get your diet high in vegetables, nuts and seeds, the fish oils, the walnut oil, so that your body can deal with inflammation. Excuse me. Vitamin C inhibits secretion of prostaglandins, which trigger inflammation. 300 IUs per day of vitamin E has been shown to reduce menstrual cramps and pains in the lower back. And vitamin E is also shown to protect lysosome membranes from histamine damage and serotonin damage. So we know that these vitamins in our food can help. Another piece of research showed that when vitamin B12 is taken with B1 and B6 together, they can produce significant dose-dependent pain relief and inhibit inflammation, comparable to a normal analgesic type of medicine. If you're vitamin C deficient, which lots of people are, there was a 14-year-old girl in Dublin a couple of years ago found to have full-blown scurvy, and she lived on crisps, chips, pizza, pasta, chocolate, coffee and Coke. So, you know, if you're not eating all your fruit and veg, you're in a mess. So severe deficiency causes scurvy, where your gums bleed and you get joint pains and you get little red spots all over your skin. But vitamin C at the right level combats inflammation and pain because it inhibits secretion of prostaglandins. It helps to normalise the prostaglandins, the good ones. And it's also a natural antihistamine. It reduces histamine levels if you're inflamed. B1 and morphine. It's known from research that high levels of vitamin B1 suppress pain transmission, and there was a piece of research in Switzerland showing that 75% of women, I think it was 20 odd thousand women they tested, were low in vitamin B1. And there's a relationship between thiamine, B1 and morphine, the natural endorphins in the body. So we need to make sure people have enough B1. As I said, vitamin E has an analgesic effect, and it helps to inhibit PGE2 production so that you're not producing the PG that's triggering inflammation. And about 300 IUs a day has been shown to reduce muscle cramps and lower back pain. And it also seems to help with adhesion pain as well. B6, pyridoxine, has analgesic effects. If it's deficient, the amount of serotonin in the brain decreases, which can lead you to low moods. And it also relieves pain with PMS, but you should always take it alongside other B vitamins. And as I said, B6 also helps to reduce pain. Vitamin K strengthens effects of inflammation. It's anti-inflammatory and analgesic. And of course, B vitamins and vitamin K your body can make in your healthy gut flora. If you have healthy gut flora, your body's making them, because you don't store them, you need them on a daily basis. Selenium also has been shown to have anti-inflammatory effects and helps the immune response. Magnesium, my favourite one, relaxes smooth muscle. It works to produce ATP, which produces energy in each cell in the Krebs cycle. And without magnesium, you get lots of muscle cramps and convulsions. It synthesizes myelin around nerves so that they're less sensitive to pain, and it anesthetizes the nervous system. It's very important for preventing miscarriage and painful contractions, and some research shows it's helpful with preeclampsia. If you've got enough magnesium in the system, you don't get preeclampsia. Zinc is also known to be anti-inflammatory. A 12-week double-blind trial with a placebo, patients used zinc sulfate, and that showed significant improvements in joint swelling, morning stiffness, and personal impressions was that people felt better. So lots of nuts and seeds. It's known to inhibit immunologically induced histamine and the white blood cells that are released from mast cells, so it dampens inflammation. Proanthocyanidins in berry fruits, grapeseed, pine bark, pycnogenol and red wine is also anti-inflammatory because the flavonoids help. They increase vitamin C levels in cells, and it decreases the capillary wall leakage, which we talked about with the histamine release, and it helps dampen down free radical damage at the cell wall. But none of this is any good to any of us unless your bowel's working. Because you can take supplements and you can eat well till the cows come home, but if you're malabsorbing, you're not going to get better. So we've got to look at bowel health, because every tissue in your body is fed by the bloodstream, which is supplied by nutrients from the bowel. When the bowel's dirty, the blood is dirty, and so are the organs and tissues. So the bowel must be cared for first. I had a patient on Monday, and she'd been to Thailand and had colonic irrigation, and she was, because what comes out of you can look like black rubber car tyre treads. And I always remember one person at Ireland bought a do-it-yourself colonic irrigation kit, which I was very suspicious of. But he said to me, I'd got lots of grape seeds coming out of me, and I've not eaten grapes for 8 years. So you can get impacted waste. So a herbal cleanse may help. But your bowel should have lots of little villi, finger-like projections, which is inside the small intestine. So they're increasing the surface area such that if you ironed your small intestine out, it would cover a tennis court. So there's a large area to absorb nutrients. Now if you're celiac, if you react to gluten, they're wiped out and it becomes smooth, so you malabsorb anyway. And when I talk to people doing autopsies, they say a lot of people they autopsy have damaged villi. This doesn't always want to go. So your gut flora is crucial. I liken gut flora to the atmosphere around planet Earth. Without our little thin layer of atmosphere, none of us would be here. And your health is very dependent on the state of your gut flora. You've got 2 to 4 pounds of gut bacteria in your small intestine, living on an you scratch my back, I'll scratch your back. You feed us and keep us healthy, and we'll produce B vitamins and vitamin K and immunoglobulins. So it's a two-way process. There are 400 or 500 different types of species. They're equivalent to the metabolic action of the liver. And I'm sure this is one of the reasons why people are getting MRSA in hospital, because they're going in without healthy gut flora to protect them. Because these immunoglobulin producing cells are a 10 to the power of 10 per meter of the small bowel. So that in your small bowel, your small intestine, if your gut flora is correctly healthy, you're producing 80% of the immunoglobulin white blood cells that your body needs to fight infection. So it's like this protective atmosphere and critical for your immune system. Things like antibiotics, we know, wipe them out. But oral contraceptives, HRTs, steroids and non-steroidal anti-inflammatories and aspirin can all disrupt gut flora. So can stress. And they've shown at discos that loud music can disrupt gut flora as well. So you need some lactobacillus acidophilus because it helps to normalise estrogen in the body. If your gut flora is not correct and you're not eating enough fibre, the bad estrogens will keep going round because your body's got no way of excreting them. So it's crucial to inhibit fecal bacterial enzymes which convert estrogen to a more toxic form, and to decrease the reabsorption of detoxified estrogen. So you need soluble fibre like oats or fruit and vegetables to absorb the estrogens, like it absorbs the cholesterol, so it can be taken out of the body, because the last thing you want is it recirculating. So pectin in fruit, alginates in seaweed, crumbled nori seaweed on your salad, oat bran, vegetables, nuts and seeds. Oh, I've gone the wrong way. So you've got this link between the immune and digestive system, the healthy gut flora producing the B vitamins and vitamin K, the gut membranes producing your immunoglobulins, and in healthy gut flora you've got sex hormone binding globulin, which binds to cell receptors to aid estrogen excretion. And then the immunoglobulins are helping you fight bacterial infections. So, vitamin B6 is also needed for macrophages, what I call the Pac-Men of the immune system. They're going around gobbling all the detritus. And it's shown that if B6 is deficient, the immune cells, the Pac-Men, the macrophages, can't clear up debris inside body cavities. John Yudkin's research showed that sugary foods interfere with the way in which the macrophages, the white cells, clean up alien invaders. And refined sugar, if you eat refined sugar, your immune system doesn't work properly for the next 4 hours. It's sort of knocked out. To work effectively, macrophages need to contain 20 UGs of vitamin C per 100 million cells. So you need your fruit and vegetables as fresh as you can get them. The other thing we need are antioxidant nutrients. The selenium, vitamin C, A, E, CoQ10, iron, zinc, manganese and copper. Those four work together and balance one another. Amino acids, taurine, cysteine and glutathione. They all help to quench free radicals that your body's producing all the time. Because free radicals can damage DNA and skin membranes, cell membranes, so that any endometriosis can take hold more easily. We know with endometriosis that these women have got more autoimmune disorders, like multiple sclerosis, rheumatoid arthritis, systemic lupus, chronic fatigue syndrome 100 times more likely, fibromyalgia twice as likely, hypothyroidism 7 times more likely, and research shows that these women have more atopic allergies like asthma, eczema, hay fever, arthritis than other groups of women. So we've got to look at what's happening with estrogen. If you have excess wheat, excess soy, too much citrus, too much vitamin C, too much folic acid and excess Korean ginseng, that can put your estrogen levels up. PCBs, dioxins, are pesticides, bisphenol A, hormones in meat and dairy foods. And if you're having not enough fibre, not enough protein, and not enough B vitamins, all of those things combined can upset the way your body's dealing with estrogen. And Carlton Fredericks at UCLA said lack of B vitamin complex, all the Bs, can upset the control of estrogen. So you should eat your green leafy vegetables like a bunny rabbit. Too little protein, at least 30 grams of protein a day, a mixture of legumes, nuts, seeds, white fish, white meat, oily fish, whole grain cereals, non-bovine dairy, organic eggs. They help, but too much refined sugar, if you're low on B3, zinc and chromium, and if you're malfunctioning blood levels, that can trigger hyperinsulinism or polycystic ovaries. And high estrogen is a problem because it blocks the action of B6, it inhibits synthesis of serotonin, the body can no longer maintain normal glucose levels, endorphin levels can be impaired, so pain sensations rise, and thyroxine reduces because estrogen and thyroxine are antagonistic hormones. So if estrogen's too high, thyroxine can be pushed lower. And of course we know that pesticides are a problem. They're estrogenic, they're xenoestrogens. So combined with the estrogen our body's producing, combined with high phytoestrogens in food naturally, we've then got to contend with all these xenoestrogens sprayed all over everything. Dioxins, I'm at the wrong angle, polyhalogenated bisphenols. I can't say that one because I'm at the wrong angle and I'm not struggling with that. Phthalates, bisphenol A are chemicals used to soften plastics. They're inside some tin cans, in babies' bottles. In Europe and America they're banning these now. Linda Giddis at Stanford University is doing lots of research showing that these can trigger endometriosis. And dioxins and PCBs, we've got research with monkeys showing that the amount of endometriosis in the primates is exactly correlated with the amount of dioxin and PCB they've been given. So you've got to be careful of meat and dairy food. It needs to be free from synthetic hormones and pesticides when possible. But that's difficult because the atmosphere, they're falling down on the grass, coming from incinerators and factories. So even some organic carrots have been found to have layers of PCBs on them. And some research is suggesting they're inside GM crop seeds. So dioxins build up in body fat cells. They're in fat cells. And the other thing is that they inactivate choline-containing enzymes and prevent plants taking up manganese from the soil. And that upsets estrogen degradation and the formation of oxytocin, the hormone that helps with maternal instincts. And the EA research, the American Endo Society, implicates the dioxins as a trigger for endometriosis. So what can we do? We can reduce our full cream milk and high fatty food intake, butter, cheese and meat. Reduce processed foods, as it can have hidden trans fats and your body doesn't really know what to do with them properly. This is the nightmare for all nutritionists, the fish question, because the planet's awash, but fish oils are crucial to reducing inflammation, so we have a conundrum. Peel vegetables if they're not organic, and if you're dieting, you must do it gradually, because if you diet quickly, you're releasing all these things from your cells into your bloodstream, which could trigger any endometriosis or high estrogen problems again. In Belgium, Philippe Connix noted the incidence of endometriosis in women presenting at clinics with infertility was 60 to 80%. Women in Belgium and Japan have got the highest endometriosis levels in the world, and the dioxin concentrations in breast milk are the highest in the world. In fact, around the Great Lakes in America, they tell women not to breastfeed because the amount of dioxin in the breast milk is too high. So, we've got problems, but we're all in the world together, so we've just got to do our best. Be aware, not anxious. Now, where's your estrogen coming from? Every fat cell in your body's producing it, naturally. Your ovaries are producing it. Those grapharian follicles around each egg are producing estrogen. And your adrenals are producing small amounts. That's normal. And it's estradiol. But if you've got enough of the B vitamins that help your liver enzymes and your gut flora work properly, you break the damaging estradiol to estriol, which can bind to fibre and be excreted. So it's all this rolling system that works if you're doing the right things. So Grandma was right, see? You should eat your greens. So broccoli, sprouts, cabbage, they contain indole 3 carbinol, which prevents the receptor binding of strong estrogens. So you get your sex hormone binding globulin at normal levels, which controls estrogen and testosterone. And we know this because vegetarians have a greater fecal excretion of estrogen. So lots of green leafy things. I think I've missed a slide somewhere. No, perhaps it comes in a minute. I thought it was there. So PMS, behavioural, gastrointestinal effects, hormonal effects, general effects. So we've got anxiety, we've got bloating, bowel problems, cravings, breasts get engorged, your libido changes, headaches, backache and bloating. And they can develop anything from when you ovulate 14 days before, 7 days before, some people maybe 1 or 2 days before. So they can be very serious in some people, and it's affecting 30 to 40% of women who are having periods. So 10% of this PMS is dysphoric disorder, where estrogen is low and people can be almost suicidal, clinically depressed. But in the other PMS, estrogen's elevated in 80% of women. Progesterone can be reduced. You can have hypothyroid or elevated prolactin levels. FSH can go too high. Aldosterone, which helps you get rid of fluid from the body, can be high, so you feel all bloated and like a beached whale. And corpus luteum insufficiency, so you're not making enough progesterone to maintain a pregnancy if the corpus luteum is not working properly. And you also get adrenal and thyroid problems, because if one of these endocrine glands is a bit wonky, the others are all trying to compensate and juggle, so everything goes askew. The research was done by Guy Abrahams, Professor Guy Abrahams at UCLA, and he found 4 distinct forms of PMS. The anxiety, which is linked to excess estrogen, low progesterone from day 14 to 28, and people get a bit anxious and irritable, tetchy, emotional instability, jump down your throat at the slightest blink. And you need to make sure you're having foods with B6 and magnesium in. PMS-C, the carbohydrate cravings for sugars, excess insulin secretion, as we said, high salt intake, decreased magnesium, low prostaglandins, and people get tired, bone weary, fainting, going faint and passing out, palpitations, heart beating, hyperglycemia. So they're told to have B6, magnesium and chromium in their diet. The depression one, the dysphoric disorder, they've got low neurotransmitters due to low estrogen, because estrogen's been seen to act as a neurotransmitter, and they get low serotonin levels. And it can be mild depression, but for some it can be severe. And again, B6, magnesium, chromium, folic acid, omega-3 oils and vitamin C have been shown to be important. And then PMSH, the hyperhydration, where you bloat to the extreme that you feel you're going to burst. That's the excess aldosterone from the kidneys. And that's shown to have, those people are shown to have low magnesium, or they're having too much salty sugar. You just bloat. And vitamin E, B6 and magnesium are shown to be important. So you can go to the doctor and ask for various tests. Thyroid, body temperature, mine's going up. I don't know whether we've got any fans in here. Have we any fans we can put on? Iron levels, vitamin D levels, red cell magnesium, female hormone profile, allergy panels, so that we can try and see what's happening. Oh, this is the other slide. Vegetarian women excrete 2 or 3 times more estrogen in their stools and have 50% lower free estrogen in their blood compared to people who eat meat. And high fibre diets can explain the lower PMS symptoms, as excess estrogen binding to the soluble fibre. So trying to go more semi-vegetarian can be helpful. The herbs that really help the menstrual cycle and to correct itself in the period pain can be Vitex agnus castus in a liquid form. It helps to support pituitary function. It's been used since Egyptian times. It's actually written on papyrus in Egypt that it helps with cases of the wandering womb. And it normalizes the message from the pituitary to the hormone. And again, if we're getting digestion right, the other question we should be asking is, are any particular foods upsetting me? Because one man's meat is another man's poison. What makes you feel good may make somebody else feel ill. So we need to look, are there any allergies, IgE allergies or IgG intolerances? And we know from 1987 to 2007, 18 million people in the UK are seeking help for IgE allergies. And there are very few immunology departments. I think last year it was something like 16. Asthma's doubled to 5.2 million people. Eczema's doubled to 6 million people. Food intolerances, which are an IgG reaction, around 2 million people are said to have intolerances to food. Not where they're going to anaphylactic shock and have an awful reaction, but something's upsetting them. And 1 in 50 people are now carrying an EpiPen, which is an EpiPen is like a pen, and if you eat shrimp and you're, hidden in something, and you go into your throat seizing up, you're literally dying, you can stick the EpiPen on your thigh, press a button, and inject adrenaline. One of the newsreaders was at Ascot, wasn't she? And she'd eaten something that she didn't know had fish in it and collapsed. And if somebody hadn't been going past, with an EpiPen, she might not have made it. And your first reaction can be bad. Oh, there we are. Hold your EpiPen up. There we go. 1 EpiPen. Lovely. So you can carry it round and it protects you. You just don't let it go, do you? You keep it with you all the time. So, I mean, that's crucial if you've got a real IgE problem. And the top IgG intolerances are cow's milk, wheat, gluten, yeast, egg white, cashews, egg yolk, garlic, soya beans, Brazil nuts. So people can react to normal foods. It may be that they're eating them too often. And the poor little fish with an allergy to water is in a real mess. Now, people I see may be eating a normal English diet. Cereal for breakfast with milk, toast and jam, or Marmite if you're a Marmite fan. Tea, mid-morning a Kit Kat and a cup of coffee. Lunch, a cheese sandwich, a slice of cake. Mid-afternoon, tea and biscuits. Dinner, pizza and Coke and ice cream. Crisps for supper. What's wrong? Everything. They're having wheat. Too much. Once or twice a day maybe, but not 10 times a day. So, you know, a normal British diet may not be the best. So what I say to people is try and tweak it. Have a fruit smoothie for breakfast or some herb tea, something, almonds, bananas. Mid-morning, have a handful of nuts and seeds and a glass of water with some elderflower cordial in. Salmon salad and some fruits and tea with lemon for lunch. An oat nut berry bar, you can make that quickly, a flapjack at the weekend. And chicken in lemon sauce, broccoli, grilled tomatoes, something green, something red at lunch and at dinner. Berries and cream fresh and seeds and elderflower cordial for dinner. So you're just tweaking it so you're reducing your wheat intake, putting up your fruit and veg, red and green veg at lunch, red and green veg at dinner. What should we be avoiding or reducing? Smoked and processed food, fried food, particularly cottonseed oil. Gossypol inhibits sperm production, so prawn and Indonesian crackers can be a problem for men. Excess wheat, soy, citrus, linseed and licorice, because they're estrogenic. Excess red meat and dairy, so try and keep everything at moderate levels. Variety is the spice of life. Michael Pollan has a lovely little book, I don't know where it is, and he's saying, and I love this, is that a lot of the food coming on the market is what he calls edible food-like substances, a better term I've never heard. It's highly processed concoctions designed by food scientists. Let's stick this in there and make something creamy, sweet, full of gunge and sell it to people and make money. But we need it to be nutrient rich. A lot of these foods are empty calories and they're going to do you no good at all. We need nutrient rich food. And he also says that if your grandmother could not pronounce it, don't eat it. So if your grandma had never heard of it and couldn't speak it, then probably it's not so good for you. And pay more and eat less. Pay for good quality food and eat more, eat that, but don't buy rubbishy things with high sugars and trans fats in. And stick with good quality food. The Chinese at the moment, there must be a book in here, I can't remember what it's called, it'll come back to me, but the Chinese are making eggs from chemicals because it's cheaper to do that than breed chickens. When they test basmati rice, 60% of some of them can be GM rice. So the only safe basmati rice that's guaranteed like champagne to be true is Tilda rice. So we have to be very aware of what's happening because we've got lots of changes in what we're eating coming down the line. It's not just fruit and veg. I want you having rainbow foods. Flavonoids, indoles in your dark green leafy veg. Carotenoids in the red veg. Proanthocyanidins in blue-back red berries. Eicosapentaenoic acid in white fish and oily fish. Ellagic acid in nuts, seeds, pulses, raspberries. Last week I was with a 105-year-old lady who lives on her own, uses a walking stick. She just stopped making apple pie for the old people in the area because she's gone a bit more wobbly. She said, I don't feel as well as I used to. And she eats raspberries like Smarties. I'm sure that's why she's 105, bright as a button. Omega-3, 6, 9, fish and walnut oils and linseed and olive oil, all unhydrogenated. And lycopene in carrots, which is protective against cancer. Canthraxathene, a carotenoid family which protects against cancer, and lutein, which is in tomatoes, peppers, pink grapefruit. All of these are protecting you as well as vitamins and minerals. So rainbow meals, nearly there. Health strategies, what do I want you to do? Now, the old adage is you breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, and dinner like a pauper. The opposite to what we're doing now. But our world's a bit topsy-turvy. So try and have something very nutrient-rich at breakfast. Try and have a more substantial meal at lunch and a lighter meal when you get home in the evening. Have them unhurried. Don't run around with a sandwich. You know, sit, relax, let your digestive enzymes work so that you're going to digest. 2 healthy snacks a day. You need to shop frequently. It's no good on a Friday night running around the supermarket with your trolley, throwing everything in, getting home, throwing all the fruit and veg in the bottom of the fridge, because the vitamins are going to go off to Alpha Centauri. They're not going to be in the food in 5 days' time when you need them. So try and get your fruit and veg every other day if you can, from a good shop where you know it's fresh. The other crucial thing, yesterday, was it in New Scientist this weekend, it was saying that they know animals are more fertile in spring, and they think we might be, because there's more light coming through and it affects. Now there is research showing that you need 20 minutes of natural daylight, not this, on the retina of the eye, in order for the pituitary to take in enough zinc to send the right hormonal message to your ovary. So even if it's winter, go out at lunchtime with your brolly up and go round the block so you're getting your natural daylight every day. Because most of us in winter, when it gets dark, are under light. We go to work in the dark, you're coming home in the dark, you're sitting working under light. So try and get 20 minutes of natural daylight. Unrefined, cold-pressed, unhydrogenated oils, the greenest green olive oil you can find. Drink your fresh filtered or mineral water so that you're getting lots of fluid into your body cells so that the nutrients are having a good turnover. Try and be organic. We can't all be organic. It's impossible all the time. And I want people being aware, not anxious. So you do your best. Hunter-gatherers, and in fact our grandparents were organic. You know, there were no pesticides then. Everything was organic. Organic was normal for thousands of years. So trying to eat natural food, and particularly pasture-fed meat, an animal that's been out on a green field nibbling grass, not an animal that's stuck in a shed eating soy pellets. So try and eat, you know, more wild game type meat, because they've got high levels of omega-3 in the muscle tissue, like fish. Whereas when you look at pellet-fed animals that haven't been in light, they've got much lower levels of the omega-3 in their muscle. And obviously, try and relax, get fresh air and sunlight. If you're going to take any supplements, they need to be free from wheat, gluten, sugar, yeast, dairy. B vitamins, chromium and selenium can grow on yeasts. They're usually manufactured in the cheaper supplements growing on yeast, so you need to make sure you're yeast free. B6, we've said, is important. Magnesium lower in women with endo. Anybody who's jumpy nervous. They took a platoon of American soldiers and they made half of them eat diets high in magnesium, and the other half of the platoon, they took the magnesium out. And after 3 months, they stood them to attention in a field and lit a cannon off behind them. And the magnesium-rich diet soldiers were, oh, what was that? And the others were, ah! So we know magnesium is important for the nervous system. And the other good thing is that magnesium, B6 and zinc are diuretic. They're naturally diuretic, so they help the bloated, the fluid retention to reduce. Vitamin A, the South African research showing that it helps reduce pain and inflammation. So your tomatoes and carrots and red orange vegetables and fruit. Vitamin E reduces breast tenderness. It helps with insomnia, headaches and depression. The acidophilus, we've said, helps to reduce the bacterial enzyme which makes estrogens more toxic. And the omega-3 6 oils reduce the inflammatory effect in the body. So the basic thing would be to have a good multivitamin. If you're trying to get pregnant, it must be below 2,000 IUs of vitamin A. An evening primrose, borage or starflower oil, and a fish oil, or if you're vegetarian, linseed or hemp oil, or walnut oil, and magnesium. And then if you've got cysts on the ovary or fibroids, it would appear that B complex and selenium can help your white blood cells digest some of the material. Chromium and zinc if you've got polycystic ovaries, because it helps the hyperinsulinism. And pine bark extract, pycnogenol, has been shown to reduce inflammation. And if your digestion's up the creek without a paddle, you need acidophilus slippery elm. Maybe you need digestive enzymes if your digestion's not very good. And if you're getting constant attacks of thrush, or you're bloating to extreme because you've been on lots of painkillers and antibiotics, then something like caprylic acid, artemisia, powdarca or grapeseed extract can help bring that under control. Laughter's the best medicine. If you're ill, laughing helps your immune system. There was a very good case of this. There was a businessman in LA, and he was diagnosed with cancer and told he had 3 months to live. So he put people in charge of his company, and he went and bought as many silly films and videos and comedy programs as he could find, and watched them for 3 months, and when he went back, his cancer had gone into remission. So we know there is research at Harvard and Stanford showing that laughter lifts your immune system, so a good giggle is crucial. I always use the Medical Research Council clinical audit. It's called a MYMOP, Measure Yourself Medical Outcome Profile. So every patient I see logs down a symptom that's upsetting them. 0, I'm fine. 6, the pain's dire. 2, and another symptom. Any activity. A lot of women with endo can hardly walk, they're like this. And well-being. If you feel skippity-hoppity, you're a 0. If you're struggling to do anything, you're a 6. And medications that they're on, painkillers, and any supplements that they're using, and dietary changes with the adverse effects that happen if they're eaten. And looking at research from 198 women, just at random, over 6 months they reported a 50% reduction in their period pain scores. 34% had said they were infertile, and of that group 52% fell pregnant, and they were between 35 and 47. The one at 47 had been trying to get pregnant for 12 years and had failed IVF 6 times, and the little boy was 10 out of 10 on the Apgar scale, so he's a happy bunny. And 26% of the group who weren't trying to get pregnant fell pregnant. 82% reported adverse reactions from wheat. So when they cut wheat out of their diet, a lot of the bloating and the pain subsided. So I'm now doing a PhD looking at what it is in wheat which seems to cause all these problems. And 55% said they reacted if they had bovine dairy. Lynn in Scotland says, my message is quite simple. Healing through nutrition works. Thanks to Diane, I have what everybody wants. I have my life back and so much hope for my future. Her husband carried her into me. I've got my book here. There are 2 over there somewhere. I don't know where they've gone. I've got one here which I'll sell for £10 if anybody wants it. I've distilled all the information on fertility into a little Making Babies book, which is £5. There's a DVD of 8 case histories here, so I can sell those for £1 each, the DVD. So I hope that that's been helpful. I have to thank the NutriCentre for having the talk so you can all hear, because it's wonderful to do this. You've got my email, diane@endometriosis.co.uk. Endometriosis.co.uk is a website, and makingbabies.com is a website. So I hope that's been helpful, and we're now going to turn the camera off so that we can ask questions, because some of them may be personal and we don't want them on YouTube. So thank you to everybody. And as I said, I've also got period drama sheets and endometriosis sheets. There's my leaflet and there's a charity endometriosis she trust leaflet.